Alright, time for another draft physics video presentation. Such. Losing my enthusiasm. Yeah, well, just seems you are belligerent. So what can be said? You want to stay stupid, apparently. Some of you. I don't know. It's hard to tell what you is, actually. Anyway, but seems sort of typical. I love how, no capital I, conspiracy theories claim 5G is dangerous. Well, I mean, we're getting into the microwave range. You don't think microwaves are dangerous? Because there's no way to transfer so much information through air without hurting people. Well, it really isn't about, it's about the frequency. You need the higher frequency to impose more data. That's the way it works. So the higher the frequency, the more data you can put per second. Now, the question is really how strong it is, right? I mean, a little tiny microwave oven isn't going to scare me very much, but being inside a very big one is going to scare me a lot. So, obviously for cell phones to work, the signal has to be strong enough to be picked up on your little devices inside your cars and all that kind of crap, and therefore, if you're closer to the gun, you might not think that's too good or great an idea. If there's a gun right outside your house, on the telephone pole or something, you might not appreciate being in the microwave oven and being blasted by a bunch of radiation, essentially, that could in fact do damage. So perfectly rational to be cautious about just saying, oh, any frequency will do. Well, no, different frequencies do different amounts of damage. It's like X-rays are more dangerous than ultraviolet light. You think that's a stretching physics, you idiot? Yet Tesla, right? Yet Tesla could somehow power a whole nation wirelessly. I mean, it's just such a preposterous lie. I mean, it's not even, you can't call that just an exaggeration. I mean, that's just crap as a sentence. He obviously didn't do any of that. I mean, not even close to doing that. He burnt some holes in the ground with lightning. He burned a whole bunch of electricity, just pissed it away, essentially. Just threw it out. Threw it in the garbage. A ton of it. Pile of money to make a little light show, and that's all he accomplished, because his theory was crap, and it remains crap. It'll never happen, idiot. The amount of losses you have putting electricity through bad conductors, I can't, is there any point in me explaining to you the difference between shooting the wire through a nice, shooting electricity through a nice little wire that goes from point A to point B, like a fiber optic cable. Think of it this way with light. Electricity sort of works the same way. So if I take the light and put it through a little fiber optic cable, I can bend it around corners, do all kinds of things, blah, 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 blah. And pretty much the light I put in, I get the same amount of light out. I mean, there's losses, but it's not huge. Now, if I just shoot it through a light bulb, then the light's going all kinds of locations, and I'm not going to have nearly the intensity at my faraway location because the light's being spread all over the place. That's how wrong Tesla's theory was. He just seemed not to understand that you have to direct your energy, and if you don't, you're losing it all. So if you want to recharge your batteries wirelessly from a couple of feet away, you can do it, but you're doing it very inefficiently. So, knock yourself out, be a wasteful pig. Yeah, for some little stupid convenience. I mean, it's just crap. It's crap theory. Your comment is crap. You people are crap. Okay. Joe. I should just say stupid fuck. Anyway, let's see. All right, here we are. So Dustin Buck. When the red rower jumps into the red boat, so the black rower jumps into the black boat. Let's use blue and red. It's safer, I suppose. When you start talking about black rowers, then you're sort of getting into trouble. So make them red and blue. Is the rower that leaves of equal energy? Well, I mean, I couldn't have made this any clearer, I don't think. I mean, I don't know how. What do I have to do to spell it out? I mean, it says right in the writing on the text that's on the screen. Okay, two kinds of force. It doesn't say 500 kinds of force, moving all kinds of different speeds and all that kind of crap. And the point is that it all's doing exactly the same thing. It's all the rowers are identical, and they have no money. There's nothing they can exchange. They are complete. You can't break pieces off of them. They can't do any other kind of interacting. All they can do is be identified as a certain electron force or proton force. That's it. They have that identity. They move the speed of light, and they're all the same size. They're all the same momentum. You can't change it any way whatsoever. Or does the exchange cost something? So obviously it doesn't cost anything is the point, except maybe time. But I would argue that there's no indication that it consumes any time to jump in the boat and jump out of the boat. So no time is lost either. So does that answer your question? A question I really shouldn't have to answer. I mean, how many times have I said the speed of force? And I mean, yeah, of course they're equal. I mean, where did I even indicate there's a possibility of an unequalness? I mean, I just can't understand why I have to answer this question. I'm going to remove it as a comment because it's stupid, in my opinion. Alright, so then he asks, so would it then be safe to say that the magnetic domains in the paramagnetic material are what's creating the drag? No. So, obviously, if you're being sucked somewhere else and you're moving somewhere else because of a sucking, whatever the thing would be, something's causing you to move and you're being caused to move in some other direction, well, that's going to slow you down. That's going to be a kind of drag to your velocity in one direction, is the obligation to move in another direction. Never mind, you answered the question. Well, then why didn't you just delete the question? Oh, fuck. Alright. I wish it would just pop to the next one, but it doesn't. Alright, Dustin again. The magnetic domain have to do with the spin? No. Of the electron. Yes, that's their theory. They theorize that the electron moving, so spinning, see, when they say the electron spin, they don't mean the electron is spinning. They mean the electron is spinning around the proton. So they're just making this they're saying it so poorly, and they're describing what they think so badly, and yet no one takes any points off for that. That this electron spin crap doesn't have to do with the electron spinning. It has to do with the electron spinning around, orbiting the sun, you could argue. The magnetic spin of the electron. And what they're saying is that somehow there's a magical thing that happens. The electron, when it's moving around the atom, it's doing some kind of magical creation of some sort of EMF thingy stuff, which is just crap. It's always charged, yes. It doesn't have to be moving. They can't even understand it as a non-moving object, so it just doesn't make any sense anyway to talk about it. But you're really just talking about when the electron is on. They think in terms of, well, when it's on one side of the atom is a certain disposition towards the world. It has a moment, and then it has a moment when it's on the other side, so to speak. Depending on which side you're looking at is when the moment will be. Anyway, so if four or more electrons, you have to use the 4 with the E on it, are spinning in the same orientation, I mean in the same orbit, that creates a tiny magnet. I don't think so. And if you have enough of those in the same direction, then you have a magnet. So you're asking me if that's what I'm saying. Well, clearly I'm not saying that. So this is a response video to Ken Wheeler's crap. He thinks it has something to do with tornadoes and hyperboloids. Clearly all I've said is that for you to see something as a charged, if there's two charged objects, what you'll see from a distance when the two charges are side by side, plus and minus, or what you'll see when they're this way, and what you see when they're this way. See the difference? Negative behind, negative in front makes a difference to what the thing is going to be getting hit by. So the atom produces a different field depending on the arrangement of the material around it. Again, I don't know if this is a useful statement, so I'm going to delete it because I don't think it just confuses the subject. It's so poorly written as a question. All right. Dustin again. I wonder what effect adding water would have. So this is the why can't it be this way kind of video on the two slit. Okay. Yes, adding water would be interesting. I just don't think it would matter. I don't think it changes the fact that what we're talking about is transitions between substances, right? Those are the places where light diffracts, is when it's going from one medium to another medium. Making the air thicker, so to speak, and that's what water essentially is just atmosphere that's a little thicker, is just really just changing the indexes, and so you'll change the width of the pattern likely or something, but you're not going to change the basic concept, which is still being caused by the medium between the two surfaces, the environment between the two substances, the transition. So just understand that. Surfaces mean there's going to be a transition from one kind of substance to another kind of substance, and that that transition area is complex in the sense that the two fields of atoms, if you want to call it, the two materials, they're just made of atoms, and the atoms are going to have to communicate with each other in that transition, and that communication can be quite strange. Obviously, with some materials there'll be quick oxidation, all kinds of chemical reactions can take place, but even if the two are inert, and not reactive, the transition is a transition. There's this weird transition between a certain kind of atom on one side and another kind of atom on the other side. And it's through those transitions that we know that light diffracts. It changes its direction. And so that's the principle, that's the concept to understand. Okay, for example, one experiment with light submerged in water and on where the light is only exposed to half of the pattern's wall. I mean, it's not a sentence of any kind of reasonableness. For example, this is a good example. One experiment with the light submerged in water and on where the light is only exposed to half of the pattern's wall. It's just no way to understand what the fuck you were saying. I can't understand it. Anyway, if you don't see light reflected, you couldn't see your own eye. So I don't know, but we can. I don't know. You're just too retarded. Alright, so I made the point that light, when it's reflecting, we see light that reflects off things at angles. The light doesn't come directly to our eye from a source that we can look at. That is, if it's coming from a laser beam, we shoot it directly into our eye. We're not going to be able to tell if the light bounced off our eye and went back to the laser beam. Are we? No, we're not. So the source is always a place we can't see reflected light off the source. Like we couldn't see light reflecting off the sun because the sun is already producing so much fucking light that there's no way we'd see. If there was another sun, we wouldn't see that sun casting light onto the sun that would reflect to us. You know, we wouldn't be able to detect any difference because the amount of light coming off the sun is so huge. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to see light reflecting off the wall going back into the laser, so, you know, that kind of thing. So what is your fucking point? If you don't see the light reflected, you couldn't see your own eye. I don't understand. How do I see my own eye except by seeing light coming from tangential sources? Is there light coming from some other place? My eyes are glowing with something automatically without having light coming from different angles reflecting? I mean, how do I see my own eye except in a mirror? And again, what am I seeing? I'm seeing light that comes in this way, bounces off my eye, goes into the mirror, and then comes back to me this way. Now, how would I tell if the light reflected off my internal retina, bounced back, and went back to the sources over here? How the hell could I see that? Oh, that's right, I can't. The point is that we already know scientifically that you can put a black surface and a shiny surface in a vacuum, and neither surface will have more pressure, kind of indicating that they're doing the same thing with the energy. That is, the reflecting surface, okay, that's obviously producing energy back out. Well, the opaque surface is also doing the same thing. It's also reflecting photons back out. You just can't see them. Shit. So, very disappointing nonsense. I think covered in the video, but whatever. Alright, if you know something is factual, would you debate someone who is conceptual? So you don't think concepts, stuff we understand in a conscious brain as a rule or a principle, are facts. You like the concept of running or the concept of jumping. You know, I mean, most of the verbs are kind of conceptual. So you don't even understand these words at all. So this is obviously a Ken Wheeler, ya Chibaba. You know, obviously just an asshole, troll, piece of shit. I mean, it's so stupid. Ask thyself that. Yes, I'll debate anyone. That's the fact. Except somebody who is overtly retarded. So why would I be afraid, as Ken Wheeler is? And they're making direct accusations. I mean, I'm directly accusing Ken Wheeler of being a lying sack of shit. And I'd love to interrogate him on that fact. He's, you know, just like the Scientific Lee guy, the liar for Christ. I mean, he's seen the images of the Pharaoh material. He knows that, you know, that under a microscope what it's doing. He's seen that shit. So why pretend that you don't know how this is a gimmick? You know, they're just fucking liars. I mean, I'm overtly calling them out. How can you see it as anything other than their cowardice that's preventing them from responding? I'm saying, scientifically, you're a liar for Christ. Okay, you're bearing false witness. You know a truth, you're not revealing it in your videos, you're pretending it's something it's not. Ken Wheeler's doing exactly the same thing. He knows that each LED creates a little line. He knows these lines aren't field lines or lines of force or anything real, that they're just reflections off little pieces of magnetic material, that inside the Pharaoh cell exactly what happens with iron filings is happening. It's not in any way different. You get the exact pattern inside the material that you get with iron filings. It's just much smaller, much finer grain. And you're reflecting light off of it at a bizarre angle to create a fake image. An image of stuff that isn't in the same arrangement as your image is. It's just a freaking glitter illusion. It literally is glitter and mirrors. Glitter and glass, however you want to say it. But that's all it is. It's distorted vision. It has nothing to do with reality. And these people are fucking liars because they fucking know that. So anyway. The only thing I'll say, a scientifically guy, when he drops the magnet through the hole in the Pharaoh cell, he's at least revealing, okay, that, yeah, where's the hyperboloid all of a sudden? Where's it go? There's obviously nothing happening when you get to the middle of the magnet. And so the middle of the magnet is incredibly weak in terms of a field. And it needs the two poles to be producing energy to produce the unevenness in the field that you're going to be able to see by an iron filing lining up in some bizarre way. But it's clearly doing push-pull to every in a perfectly even amounts on either pole, and so it's a complete neutral in terms of, it's kind of like a gravitational neutral. It doesn't mean there's no field, it just means that it's a completely even field. So anyway, I'll just delete this shit. But yeah, this sucks. Yeah, there's just stupid everywhere. So anyway, this is some guy, I think, who just cool hard logic. I think he just does flat earther videos, and he has something called World of Batshit. And so I was thinking of that in the context of this physics girl crap with this fucking, gravitational wave. So she did do the extended video. It's a big fail. I mean, there's just nothing in it. The big news is, well, you proved the speed of gravity. Well, no, we already knew the speed of gravity, frankly. All the physicists knew it already before gravitational waves. And they're just saying that somehow it's a verification of it when there's nothing real in their experiment. So they say they've got a proof of something, a verification, when no, it's just a verification of their own delusions. There's no verification of anything because you made up all the variables in the experiment. It's a completely, imaginary experiment. You can't prove something with imaginary experiments, with essentially thought experiments. This is a thought experiment, and it's not even based on anything real. So I thought that was funny. So they wasted time on that. Nothing. So, and then the funny thing is, she introduces the video by saying, "Well, I have this 1.5 hours of interview with," and I love to play it. And like somehow she's offending the audience by having one video that's longer than 10 minutes, and then she sits there and only posts 30 minutes of it. So she had, so there was an hour of it that was useless crap. Compared to and this is the good stuff, and the good stuff apparently is useless crap. Where she just most of the time just giggles and spends time going, "Ain't I stupid? Oh, I'm such a silly physicist, and you're such a real physicist." Some kind of crap like that. So we'll play some of that, and I will attempt to interpret what the crazy guy is saying and explain to you why it's just complete shit. It is batshit crazy. Aren't they cute?
I think that's something I would have said. Compressing.
Oh, that's something I would have said. Compressing. Yeah, compressing is a perfectly good word, actually.
Compressing.
If you look at what is the in general relativity is effectively the Young's modulus of space-time.
Yeah.
Which.
Okay, so now they're going to try to figure out the medium of space-time and compare it to other mediums like a piece of steel or a piece of rubber or a piece of glass, and they're really just talking about how well does it transmit vibrations. So the harder something is, the better it transmits vibrations. Now, for their theory to have any hope at all, the waves, of gravity can't possibly be affected by any rubberiness. Anything that would move them in directions that don't have to do with getting them to here. So there can't be any loss in the system at all. The waves have to stay pristine in their travel. And so that's why the comparison to steel and to hardness. And so hardness is just another way of saying lossless. So they're just basically saying space is a lossless medium. That's the rational interpretation of this gibberish.
in materials Young modulus tells you like how compressible something is.
Right.
You could say, oh, here's the Young's modulus of space-time, and let's compare that to steel, and that's why we need, black holes and neutron stars, stars exploding, the birth of the universe. These are the kind of things that are actually going to create vibrations in space that will be large enough in amplitude for us to see.
Right. So this is all part of some rationalization or excuse making to say that somehow gravity, when black holes make it or when neutron stars make it, is completely different than gravity. It's not really gravity waves they're talking about, because they're saying something entirely different happens. Because what they're saying, basically, they're making this excuse. We can't create a noise here on Earth that's of the same character in any way to detect from a closer distance. Now we know this whole thing about the whole argument here is about how photons or any kind of force diminishes over distance. How it's the inverse square law, or even worse with dipoles, it's the cubed, inverse cubed law. So the force diminishes dramatically over distance. And so, the reasonable objector would say, well, why don't you just test your instrument by creating a noise, a movement, a gravitational effect here on Earth, and that's very, very close. Therefore, it can be very, very weak because it's so close, and detect it, and it'll be proportional to seeing something a billion light years away. Now, it's perfectly rational. It's like me saying, look, we see the starlight. I can create a light on Earth, and we can see if we can detect a light on Earth that's really close, right? And then we can make comparisons about how many photons I'm seeing with different light sources, and I can even speculate about, if I know how far away the star is and I know how bright it is, then I can even compare it to something here on Earth and make a comparison and say how much energy is coming out of the star, how big the star is. He's saying basically, no, this is different. But he isn't going to explain how it's different. So they're calling these gravitational waves. They don't have anything to do with gravity in any of the normal ways that gravity works.
When people ask, well, can you make an experiment on Earth to make the waves and to detect it? The answer is no, just because these numbers come out to be really, really large.
Okay.
Yes. Well, the number of a billion light years is a lot of miles. Again, calculate how many miles away that is. It's an insane number of miles away at the inverse square law. So again, this is just a horseshit excuse. So it basically validates what I've been saying, is they know this instrument in any practical experiment will never prove itself to be capable of measuring the movement of a frickin' 1,000th of the distance of the thickness of a proton. It's never going to do anything like that in any kind of real test. It's just in a made-up pile of crap.
It's certainly the kind of thing people wanted to do. Could you make like a rotor and say for a hypothetical detector, even ignoring what the detector
Yeah, I don't even have to make a rotor. Just swing a weight over your mirror. That's it. Just take a big steel ball and swing it back and forth over your mirror and see if you can make your mirror move. Your protons move.
might be, could you make a bar and spin it around fast enough, a big enough bar, in order to...
See, it's almost they're conceding the rational theory of gravity, which is gravity has to do with the arrangement of the matter. That is, a bar, lengthwise and widthwise, would have more gravity at the ends, than it would have in the middles. Because of it adds up. Atom by atom, it adds up. So we see big things are always circular, so it creates a consistent distance all the time. But unusual shapes would have unusual gravitational fields.
To detect gravitational waves in the lab next door, which is sort of the way electromagnetic waves were discovered. In one half of the lab, make a spark gap sort of emission of electromagnetic waves, and on the other side.
So again, it's all this wave crap, right? Remember the electromagnetic wave? It's just wrong. It's a frequency. You're turning the force on, you're turning the force off. You're making a change in the environment, you stop making the change. You make the change, you stop making the change. No waves involved.
But you have the radio receiver to detect them. And turn it on, turn it off, chop it on, chop it off, and you can see these radio waves. If you look at how fast you have to spin the bar, that exceeds the tensile strength of steel, and the bar rips apart.
So again, this obviously you don't have to spin the bar at any speed. Now, why would spinning the bar change its gravity? Is there any theory that makes that happen? Your gravity changes because you are moving. Where's the theory? And your gravity gets much greater as you're moving? No.
It's literally ripped apart.
Yeah.
So there's just no way to do that.
So that's just more bibble. I mean, this has nothing to do with, I don't have to spin something. All I have to do is change the environment. All I have to do is create an effect, something that changes the field environment. You're saying you're detecting a change in a field. Just change anything that changes the field should be detectable, and should be by the same rules we know that affect all of the other things in the universe, which are the inverse square kind of idea that you're spreading your energy all through the universe. Obviously, the little bit that we'll get here is just a tiny percentage of the overall energy, blah, 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 blah. Same rules.
That here in the lab, given how stiff space is.
Right.
So again, just more, it's irrelevant how stiff space is, unless you're going to say somehow you're going to violate the inverse square law. That somehow you're going to say that your signal is just as strong, at 1 billion light years away as it is at 2 billion light years away. Well, bullshit.
Yes, we talked about how we cannot create gravitational waves.
Yeah.
Not even.
So again, we can't create, everything already creates gravity, right? So this is the argument. So basically they're saying that these neutron stars or black holes are doing something special. They're doing something that somehow we can't duplicate. Yet they're calling them gravitational waves when clearly it's not really gravity then. It's some other thing, right? I mean, it's just logical. We know that every molecule here on Earth is creating gravity. So to say we can't create changes in the gravitational field is preposterous on its face. Of course we can. And you should be able to detect them.
With geological activity, which is violent on Earth as far as Earth terms go.
Yes, anytime, all this is about, again, is just moving objects, right? So there's objects moving out in space. And that changes the field in the sense that there's a subtle difference between the two objects being here and the two objects being here and the two objects being this way. So obviously, that's all there is to work with, is movement of the objects, which has a changing effect on the field being produced, the gravity image. And that's all you can change. And of course we can change things. When you move pieces of the Earth, you're going to change the gravitational image when you move matter.
But yeah, not even close. Like, many people ask, can you set off a nuclear bomb and measure the gravitational waves there? It's still a paltry amount compared.
So he's basically conceding we can't detect a nuclear bomb going off. I mean, what can you say? It sounds like bullshit that you're detecting the movement of a proton, 1,000th of a proton then. Or human hair at, on the surface of Alpha Centauri, or whatever the fuck your preposterous exaggeration of the day is.
What you need to actually see them.
Good segue, because...
there's not segues, there's jump cuts. But anyway, she's edited the hell out of this. Alright, so the other point to get to, just advancing the film, so to speak. I haven't watched this part. Is this argument about what exactly they're talking about with this wave anyway. And so if you understand the traditional notion of gravity is, okay, first they just give you the stupid bent fabric thing. Well, that's just nonsense, right? Because it's three-dimensional force. Bending a fabric has nothing to do with a three-dimensional force. I mean, a bent fabric in 3 dimensions doesn't make any, it's a silly drawing. It's obviously not a fabric. It's a convergence. All right, so as Susskind would do the mathematics, it's a fluid convergence. Is exactly what the math is taught as. It's described as. So it's this collapsing of space by gravity. Now gravity is basically just saying there's no space here. Okay, there's this much space, and gravity is just saying inside of every tiny little bit of matter, space collapses. And so that there's a pull on space because it collapsed the space inside the matter. What they're projecting. So what you would see from the outside, if you're standing outside, you'd see, oh, space just wished by me. There's a piece of matter there, and the space wished by. It wishes by because of the piece of matter. There's a little bit of a flow, okay, around me. What they're trying to sell is the idea that somehow the part that's sucking, somehow transports itself in between their two mirrors. So it's not like they're saying mirror A, the emitter of the laser beam is pulled by the gravity wave. Pull, 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 pull. So we're saying the wave is turning on, off, on, off, on, off. That means the little sucking sound, or whatever you want to call it, the little sucker, turns on and off. So there's suck, there's no suck. There's suck, there's no suck. There's suck, there's no suck. That's the wave. Now when it gets to these mirrors, right, if they had to be lined up, the first mirror is going to move when the suck wave gets to it. And then the second mirror is going to move when the suck wave gets to it. So you're not going to be eliminating distance between the two mirrors. So they're projecting that this wave is really like it was matter, and that the wave itself is pulling from both directions. That the wave itself, or all three dimensions, that the wave itself is somehow contracting space in between the two mirrors. Somehow. So the two mirrors end up closer together. Because they really won't end up closer together as the wave travels. Because for every, it's at the speed of light. So as the light is moving, well, so is the mirror, so is the whatever you want to call it. It's moving at the same speed. So it's going to take just as much time for the light to travel the distance as it took gravity time to shorten the distance, in the sense that first it lengthened the distance, right? One mirror moves, and the other mirror doesn't move yet. So now the distance is lengthened. Then the other mirror catches up. But overall, you've shortened the distance from the gravity wave, so it's still, in a sense, they're measuring an expansion, not a contraction. See, it just logically makes no sense. But anyway, just for clarity, what they're saying a gravity wave does is as the wave travels, it somehow sucks space from both directions, from all three dimensions. It's somehow matter. It's somehow little bits of matter that are somehow creating gravity. It's just nonsensical crap. So they're really not talking about space being collapsed into the center of a bit of matter. That's gravity. They're talking about somehow transporting collapse through space. It's not gravity theory. And they mentioned Einstein in this thing a few times, and again, it's so offensive because Einstein would hate what they're saying. Einstein didn't believe any of this crap. It's just horrible to take somebody's name and put their name on your crap. I mean, to shit in somebody's lawn and stick a sign in it that says, Einstein made this shit. No, Einstein didn't make this shit. It's not his fault. These idiots did this to his theory.
So a nuclear bomb converts matter into energy. So in the collision of two large objects like two black holes, a large amount of...
So let's understand, it really doesn't convert. It just releases. Okay, so there's still matter, in the sense that you still have a lot of the same protons, you could almost argue. So you're really not... You're taking big atoms and making them into smaller atoms, and you have some leftover energy that was the pressure. So you're releasing some pressure from atoms. So you're essentially reducing their voltage in a way. All right, but you're not really destroying the atoms.
Mass is converted into energy in the form of gravitational wave energy. How does that work?
Basically, again...
So again, it's gravitational wave energy, whatever that means. Wave energy, No, the energy has to come from the source somehow. So again, there's just no explanation how you turn matter into gravity. Matter makes gravity by being matter. When you turn it into something that's not matter, it can't make gravity anymore. Gravity's only made by things that have matter in them. It's not made by energy. You can't make gravity with energy. You can only produce energy. And like I said, they don't call them virtual photons, they don't call them anything. This energy that moves across space from this wave. It doesn't have any identity.
We appeal to relativity here. So you have the waveform
Yeah.
from your data, and you've used Einstein's theory of relativity to calculate what the waveform should be for these two black holes. Take the first event.
Again, you don't need any relativistic calculations. There's no theory that somehow spinning makes extra gravity, that somehow it does any of that. You can only do something really silly, like say, I've increased the mass of the object, like a bullet. Okay, the bullet, when I measure it on a scale, it weighs, whatever, 5 grams or something. Then I shoot it at a scale, and I measure how much it hits the scale. And I say, no, the bullet weighs 15,000 pounds. It's incredibly heavy. Now I can do something silly like that, and then I can say, okay, the bullet is now 15,000 pounds, and so now it's making a lot more gravity because it's 15,000 pounds instead of just being 5 grams. Now you can do something silly like that, but there's no theory that that's at all true, that bullets have a huge amount more gravity when they're moving than when they're stationary. So it's all a pile of crap.
Yeah.
29 solar mass black hole, 36 solar mass black hole merging together. And so you have the end spiral phase.
Yes, and we don't even have any rational theory for this end spiral phase. So again, it's just more talk about how this thing ever collapses in the first place. So I haven't seen any rational explanation for any theory of how we know how massive objects collapse, or how things even collapse in gravity, and that they do it in this manner, based on these preposterous premises, that is, of two objects spinning around each other at half the speed of light. Well, where did they get all that velocity from? Where?
Then there's a merger phase where things combined, and it's some object that looks like a black hole, but it's got lobes on it, and it's spinning around very briefly. And then finally you have the ring down phase of that object as it smooths out and becomes a spinning black hole.
Oh, wow.
Now, what's left over? 36 and 29, that's 65 solar masses. You can tell from the waves on the ring down that this thing was 62 solar masses. So 3 in that process. 3.
This part's just all made up. I mean, they're just made a standard, and now they're just going to compare any wacky signal they get that's on, off in a diminishing way. So that you can think there's probably a million things that would create that kind of effect. That is, any kind of effect where it starts off with a high amplitude, very loud, and it gets quieter as it settles. So anything like a ball on a stick, I could hit it, whap, and then it rings down. So you don't think there's like a trillion things in the universe that are doing that right now, that are in tension and ring down? I mean, I'd say every electron in every atom is probably doing something like that all the time, where it gets an impact and it rings down.
These times the mass of the sun were converted into gravitational wave energy.
So again, gravitational wave energy. That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't say anything. What is it excreting, and where did it come from? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. There's no theory for converting matter into something called gravity. The gravity is a consequence of being matter. once you're not matter, you can't be making gravity anymore. There's no energy that makes gravity. So he might have some credibility if he said something silly like, well, it converts matter into Higgs bosons, and Higgs bosons have gravity, and the waves are made out of Higgs bosons, or some kind of bullshit like that. It's still bullshit, but that might have some hope of being reasonable.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah,
3 times,
yeah.
and that's what's coming out.
Yeah, I totally get. You made energy. You took Einstein's non-existent theory of making energy out of, gravitational, whatever, magic, out of matter. Somehow you convert matter into something that makes gravity, even though matter makes gravity.
From the system is these gravitational waves. It's churning up. So there's this conversion of those 3 times the mass of the sun into gravitational waves. None of it's coming out light. That makes it...
So none of it's coming out in photons. So he says light. Well, what do you mean by light? You mean the electromagnetic spectrum. So none of it's coming out in any form of energy that we know actually exists. It's coming out in magic. And again, if they want to say it's energy-like, then it's a pushing force. So they're basically saying the wave is push, 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 push. Right? Push on, push off, push on. That's what light will do, right? Gravity only works because of the absence of a force. Because something in front of you has absorbed the force, you move into a low pressure. That's why matter makes gravity, is it takes force away. It consumes force to move. Force that would have hit you. Their theory is just fundamentally nonsense. And so if anything, this wave should be a pushing force. It still wouldn't be gravity. It would be gravity in the sense that it would be more force in the field. And so you could argue, but we don't know any other way to do that. All we know is how you can consume a force that's in space. We don't know how you make a force into space. We can redirect photons. We can make photons go in another direction. We can catch them in traps. We can do things with them. We can't make them. So their theory is basically they're making energy. They're making force.
Super exotic object.
Yeah.
But they're really not, because it's not pushing. So again, it still has to push. You can't make force unless you make it push. So they're basically saying, look, we're consuming and destroying. They're doing annihilations of force somehow to make this gravity wave. It's incomprehensible crap.
And at the time, it was the most powerful astronomical event.
Again, he just talks like the thing we made up is, my dreams are your reality now. Ha 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 ha.
Known to human beings because of that conversion, 3 times the mass of the sun in a quarter second. That outshines all the stars in the known universe for that quarter second. None of it's coming out in light. It's all coming out in gravitational waves.
None of it's coming out in anything rational. It's all coming out in figments of our imagination.
So Twitter has a bunch of questions, like a rapid fire, just like some Twitter questions.
Oh, so superficial questions. Great. Let's just do superficial questions.
Okay, man, these are not quick questions. What was I thinking? The questions are like, why is mass the cause of gravity? And why is gravity only attractive?
Why is gravity attractive? Well, one, it's an observation in the universe, but it's also not absolute. I mean, there's at least one example of where we know where gravity appears to be repulsive in that.
Okay, so now we're going to hear something really, really good, right? So we have one example of repulsive gravity. Did Einstein know about that? So this ought to be good. See, the more you listen, you don't realize that this sounded really silly, and then you hear him talk a little bit and it gets sillier. But yeah, the more details you know, the more how bad this is. The whole idea that they're sending the photon back and forth 300 times. Fuck. Yeah, that'll work. Sure, that won't just amplify any erroneous signal. Oh, what is wrong with this? I gotta buy a new wire. Stop it. I shouldn't complain. Everything I've gotten here is garbage. Oh, the garbage isn't working perfectly.
It's in dark energy.
Yep.
And so what
Dark
the right
energy.
solution of
So
that-
amazing. He's citing dark energy as an example of something we know is repulsive gravity. I mean, how outrageous does this crap have to get? I mean, and none of you people will call shenanigans. He just cited, we do have an example of repulsive gravity. Dark energy. Something completely, there's zero evidence for, again, except for the fact that they're doing this stupid, their interpretation of redshift. It could be wrong. But that's all it's based on, is they think there has to be something, something has to be moving everything apart. Well, why does there have to be something? You create nothings that are something. Well, it creates energy that isn't in the form of anything we know of as energy. Fuck.
is still not well understood.
Yeah.
But it does seem like on the largest scales and on these time scales that there's a component of gravity which is repulsive.
All right, there's a component of gravity. There's no association between dark energy and matter at all. There's no sense that it's some sort of gravity force, in the sense that there's just no evidence connecting it to something gravitational, like matter's making it, causing it. So why would you say we have an example of repulsive gravity when we don't associate dark energy with the existence of matter? You could have dark energy in the universe, theoretically, by their theory, without having any matter involved at all. So why would you call it a form of gravity?
So what does that mean? It looks to us like there's some sort of negative energy density or something
Yeah.
that's driving this expansion of the universe.
Is
Yeah. Again, it looks like it doesn't really. Not if to a fair cop, it doesn't look like that at all. You have a stupid little change in the redshift of light from a distance. The further away it is, the more red it seems to be. And there could be causal effects of traveling billions of light years that redshifts light. And instead, you're going to say the object's moving half the speed of light away from us, which is just the wrong conclusion, in my opinion. Clearly unevidenced conclusion.
a repulsive form of gravity a thing that is taken into account in a theory of gravitational waves?
No, not at all. So we had, in order to understand these waves, we were using classical general relativity.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're using classical. No, they're not. I mean, just saying, so she's basically just saying, oh, so is your gravitational wave theory made up of some sort of bullshit? Well, he just explained how, yeah, it's made out of a bullshit in the sense that we're saying that we can transport the idea of a collapse in space, time, over a distance. We can throw a piece of matter, all the way from two colliding stars, and we can essentially throw the collapsing gravitational bit all the way between our two mirrors. No, we haven't. We're doing classical physics. Bullshit.
And so you don't have to fold in any knowledge of dark energy
Yeah.
or quantum gravity.
Yeah.
Thing. So
Yeah.
No, it's just a lie. That's just a preposterous lie. Okay, there's absolutely nothing. Again, if they were gravitational waves, then all they can do is pull, because that's all Einstein accounted for, was the pulling of this force. Obviously not understanding that it's a shadowing of force, but anyway. But you can't make the collapse inside between your two mirrors. You can't do that. There's no classical theory that allows your particles to do that.
it's the same theory that Einstein laid down in 1915, but people know a lot more about it since by doing...
Yeah, right. They know more about his theory than Einstein did. Yeah, right. Sure. That's how it works.
More investigations, exploiting the theory, finding solutions.
They didn't exploit anything except the taxpayers by building all of this preposterous nonsense to see something totally irrelevant, even if it existed, that couldn't possibly mean a thing. And they've just made up their we done it moment out of nonsensical theory that can't make any sense, that has no, again, where was this debate ever take place over the fact that you can somehow create some sort of special energy by, that you can turn matter into something other than photons? Where this alchemy that they're conducting, where is the explanation of this alchemy where we take a piece of matter, a hydrogen atom, and we convert it into something other than photons? Where is it? Where's the evidence of that?
For different scenarios and applying
photons, electromagnetic spectrum radiation.
numerical relativity. So we absolutely don't need it in terms of gravitational waves.
So he cited relativity before, and then he says we don't need it. Again, it's just gibberish. I don't know, what's she doing this cut for? Oh, they talked in different places. Isn't that cute?
I think I tried to ask you this last time, but I don't know how to ask this question, and I feel.
So you've had all this time to figure out how to ask it, and you still can't ask it. So she did this last time thing. I don't even, it's just hilarious. This is her second shot. She still can't compose a rational inquiry into how this thing works.
Like it's fundamental to what it really means to what fundamental to how this observatory and how this detector works. Why is it that when you stretch the distance of the arm, you're not stretching the light as well? Or I don't even know. Do you know the right question that I'm trying to ask?
I think it's hard.
How can you be stretching the space in all locations between the mirrors at once? How can you be doing that? Well, stretching. You're not stretching. You're collapsing. Gravity collapses. Remember?
Yeah, that's right. That's a good way to put it. It's sort of like, how do you make a measurement with a ruler if your ruler is changing length?
Exactly. Yes.
So the light does change. It has to change, just the same way light gets.
So now we're back to this nonsense that their understanding of redshift is somehow being created while something travels. So between the photons, the space is expanding and contracting, and that's creating redshift. So again, this is just such a pile of crap. So instead of acknowledging that if I'm running forward with a machine gun, right? I don't need any spatial physics, right? I run forward with a machine gun. The bullets are going to come out faster. They're going to hit the guy at a higher frequency. If I'm running away from the guy while I'm shooting the bullets are going to hit the guy at a lower frequency. It doesn't need, nothing happened between the bullets. The space between the bullets didn't change. Nothing changed in the space between the fucking bullets. We know that. So again, this is just such a bad theory. It's overtly wrong, and they're still selling it. So he's basically telling you right to your face now that, oh no, at the same time the mirrors are moving, the photons are actually getting further and closer together because the space is disappearing in all those locations. What a crock of shit.
Redshift did when the universe expands.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Same question I'm trying to ask.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, the light is affected, but it's only affected for a small time in the detector relative to the gravitational wave signal.
Okay.
So yes.
Even though they're moving exactly the same speed, the gravitational wave's moving exactly the same speed as the photon, and the photons could be moving towards you or away from you because they're moving them back and forth 300 times, so you can't even be assured that your photon's going with the wave or against the wave. What a crock of shit.
It's an effect, but it's a small effect for us. It's about, a 1% per kilohertz effect,
Okay.
meaning our detector is sensitive to many different frequencies. It's a broadband instrument. So the higher.
So again, there's no evidence that their detector is sensitive. There's no evidence, no testing of the sensitivity of this stupid device, this telescope. It was never. They never took it and just said, "Well, can I see the barn over there?" They never did that with it. There's no test of this piece of shit.
The you go in frequency, the more of an effect happens. And we know it happens, and it gets extracted in the calibration.
Interesting.
So it gets extracted at the calibration. Isn't that cute? The calibration with what? What control are you using for your calibration? Something also made up, Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, you know, how far apart they are, and you're measuring, oh, how far apart is Daffy Duck from Bugs Bunny, and, you know, if we get that number, oh, it should be 5 millimeters, then it's calibrated.
Well, let me see if I feel like I maybe am coming to an understanding, but is it that you're sending out...
So she's a physicist that she can't understand, which is funny. Right? I mean, it's kind of funny right on its face. Oh, man, you're going to have to really try even harder to explain this. But yes, even to me, it doesn't make sense. I've been taught all this babble. You know, I'm sold. I'm going with all the babble, but I still don't understand your babble. Your babble is so babbly.
Light, and you're measuring how long it takes the light to go that distance. And then then maybe a half a second later, the detector has stretched and you're sending a new light and seeing how long that takes to go.
So again, stretched. What is this stretching? So it's supposed to be collapsing space, not stretching space. So again, this doesn't even make any sense.
Whatever distance the detector arm is.
Yeah,
something more like that, rather than like you've got this light in the detector the entire time the detector is being stretched.
So light builds in the arms and resonates in the arms, and on average...
So let's understand, these things are really big black holes, right? A neutron star even. So just imagine how big the distance, the wavelength has to be, right? It has to be a very big wavelength. So not one wave could ever be, more than one wave couldn't possibly be in the detector at a time. Only one wave, one piece of a wave could be in the detector at any one moment. And so that wave is in the detector. And it's a big thing. The wave is long. It's not like thin. It's really thick wave. And it's, so, you know, this is just, again, so how does any of this nonsense make any sense? Obviously the whole detector is full of the collapse part at one time. And then it goes back to being expanded again, and then it collapses again, and then expands again. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
A photon has about 300 bounces.
Okay.
Some get out earlier, some take longer to get out.
Yeah.
It's a continuous process.
300 bounces, he just said. Some longer, some shorter. Oh, how can that make any sense? It's either 300 or... but the two beams have to go exactly 300 or exactly 299 or exactly 2... You can't have them go in different distances. See, this is all... I've said it before, this is just a phase thing, out of phase. It really doesn't have anything to do with the length being measured. You're not measuring a length. You're just measuring how much something's out of phase.
But the time that those photons spend is the time in which they could be expanded or contracted due to the gravitational wave. Mm-hmm. That time, in general, is less than the time that the gravitational wave spends, you know, jockeying the arms around.
Yeah.
And so it's the combination of those.
So now he's basically doing some sort of horse shit that, okay, because we're bouncing it now 300 times, so apparently the thing wouldn't work if you didn't bounce it 300 times. Since you're bouncing it 300 times, it takes longer for the light to get through the 300 bounces, and now the wave goes through in less time because it's, although it's big, you know, it's still big. It's still bigger than the length, even the extended length, even the 1,000-meter or 1,000-mile length of creating 300 bounces, even that length, you'd have to theoretically understand is smaller than the width of one of the waves. So the waves are coming off objects that are frickin' million miles. The waves are 1,000,000 miles thick.
Two effects that matter. If we made a measurement at 36 kilohertz, then it's possible that if you had a source right on the zenith, directly above you or directly below, that the effect of the gravitational waves on the arms, these arms which are really sensitive to differential motion, would be completely undone by the effect on the light, and you're at a null point in the instrument. And then you wouldn't see anything, despite having this perfectly sensitive, wonderfully sensitive differential, measurement tool.
Right, so he's conceding the point that if the mirrors are going further apart, so are the photons going further apart, and therefore there's no effect. And yet he's saying, well, no, we know that when it's pointed a certain way, though, we do get an effect. Somehow there's a difference between this expansion and contraction is somehow dimensionally differential.
Why is that? Hold on. So first of all, we've made it to the end of the detector arm, but I was very enthralled and almost maybe getting to a point of understanding this question I asked. That I got distracted. But we're here. We're at the end of. So this is where one of the mirrors is.
Yeah, one of the end mirrors.
One of the end mirrors.
So at the end of the inquiry is an unclear answer. Oh yeah, it's a problem, but we don't worry about it because it's worry starts with a W, and we just threw W words out.
It's in a chamber connected to the vacuum envelope, which goes all the way back.
The vacuum envelope. Is that the name
That's
of
the tube.
Yeah.
Yeah, the entire set of tubes.
I think I'm done. I mean, I'm not done, but I think I'm done. I have to let Mike Landry go eventually. I mean, this is the best day ever, maybe.
Yeah, wow, yeah. Oh, I told you a silly little story. I can tell you some other stories, Chicky Poo. Little rare rabbit stories, all kinds of little cute stories. I get you hot?
Got a lot of videos, that's great.
I mean, it's not that often that I get to just sit and ask people questions about things.
And get completely incoherent answers. Oh, it's just so cool. I love incoherent answers.
It's about the universe that are so fascinating and constantly learn.
Yeah, you just made all the fascinating parts up, frankly. The universe is dull as shit. We're just fucking robots. We're just gurgitating whatever one goes in, comes out in some other fucking form. Pooey, smelly. It goes in smelling pretty good. It comes out smelling like shit. Anyway. Yeah, oh, that's so mysterious. It's so interesting. No, it really isn't. All this bullshit is just bullshit. The universe is dirt simple. It's a little mechanical crap machine. It just makes craps.
Learn new things and get my mind blown about every 5 minutes.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Whew. Happy physicsing.
Oh, isn't that cute? It's just so cute. Happy physicsing. It's just so cute. Making shit up is so much fun. It's like, making poos in a sandbox.
To KiwiCo for supporting PBS.
Fuck them in the ass until dead, too. This planet is covered with nothing but stupid. It's just stupid everywhere. Belligerently fucking stupid. And fake. And phony. Ugh. God, I hate this shithole. Alright, let's see if there's any new comments. That'll be fun. Odds are not. No, nothing. No, nothing. There's just nothing. Nothing. This whole fucking internet is for dumbasses now. It's the internet for dummies. No vortex exists on a magnet. Yeah, duh. I'm sure it won't be a proof of anything. So let's play this just for the hell of it. Magnets don't create anything but lines of force. Now some asshole made some comment that you're lying about scientifically. He doesn't put those ads on, YouTube does. Bullshit. There's no copyright material in here. YouTube didn't put that fucking ad on. He did. Advertisements for Jesus.
Hello and welcome to Scientifically Speaking. Today I again show that the common...
You again bear the false witness.
Accepted theory.
In the name of Jesus.
That there is a vortex on a magnet and a torus on a magnet.
Again, if God wanted you to know any of this stuff, don't you think he would have put it in his Bible? Don't you think so? You just put it right there in the Bible. Magnetism is caused by blah, 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 blah. Take one paragraph, be done. No, he obviously doesn't want you to know, dumbass.
Yeah.
That's the tree of knowledge. That's the God. That makes you a God. He doesn't want you to be a God. Gods understand how things work. Not you, silly little mortal things.
Yesterday and the day before I showed there is no torus on a magnet by showing the inertial line via a Pharaoh cell with a hole in it, and showed there is no torus.
There's no continuous line, you know. That's all he demonstrated. That if there's a line, it goes like this, in two little halves or something. But yes, there is a line. They're all forced lines going at straight vectors, and all the middle of the magnet is that you have just as much red hitting just as much blue force. So no matter what you put out there, it's going to be hit by as much attraction as it is repulsion. Blah 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 blah.
Around the magnet, everything wraps around the inertial line. Today,
nothing wraps around anything. All the pile of crap. It's radial force.
I'm going to show that there is no...
That's what if you look at it through a microscope, that's what you'll see.
No vortex on a magnet, and it is created by the halo waves that are emanating from the magnet.
Halo waves. So, you know, we got one guy who calls the crap like that Stuart Chappelle thing with that weirdo guy. Calls them solitons. I thought they meant something like a sun. No, he means like a soul. Okay, the universe has little soul, little bits of soul in it. Whatever the fuck that is.
Thanks very much.
And what they show is this on a magnet. If we zoom in,
So obviously the stuff right in the middle is a representation of the fact that this Pharaoh material is all lining up this way. So you can't really reflect light off something that's lined up this way. It just won't reflect the light to you. It has to be this way so it can deflect the light, because of the way it's made. It doesn't reflect light off its little ends at all very well. So it reflects light off the sides, but it won't do this end thing. So that's why the middle is dark, is because those bits are perfectly straight towards you. And they're also not in a very thick line because they're only the thickness of the glass. They can't line up thick. So there's just no reflection there. And they're also really dense right there. So the light doesn't even get to them because it's coming from the side. So if you have a whole bunch of pillars, you know, the light will hit the outside ones, but it's never going to get to the inside ones. And that's why it's a little brighter around the outside. It's because, yes, that's where all the light's reflecting, because it can't get to the inside because there's so many poles in the way.
and because my glass is only 3 mil thick, I get to see closer to the magnet because I'm only 3 millimeters away. I do not use optical flats, which are any...
Why don't you have the magnet pressed against the glass would be the obvious question, right? I mean, why doesn't he press it against the glass? Because then it'll stay in one place. I mean, look, it's closer to the magnet, except I'm keeping it a distance from the glass. So he's holding the magnet away from the glass, and yet he's saying, look, I'm closer to the field. I'm closer to the Pharaoh material. It's retarded.
From 6 millimeters to 10 millimeters thick. So the field, the closest it can get to the magnet, is between 6 and 8 millimeters.
Alright, the field. There's no field. Okay, so all you're doing is getting closer to the little bits of Pharaoh material, and obviously they're still trapped. So the pattern you're getting is artificial in the sense that they would go right to the magnet if they could. they're stuck in a medium, just like the iron filings on the piece of paper can't get where they really want to go. They can't do what they do naturally. And what they would naturally do is line up in straight rays from the magnet. If they could get there. That's what you'll see if you dump the magnet in a fluid full of iron filings, is you'll see that they all bunch up at one end and they all bunch up at the other end, and they're all pointing out.
You'll see that there is a vortex, if I can get that to stop shaking. Right there. You see how all these waves come in?
There's no waves going anywhere. These are, and again, these lines are completely just an illusion. If you look under a microscope, you'll see the Pharaoh materials lining up in straight rays around the pole of the magnet, just like it would do with iron filings.
Right there. You can see them all, twisty lines converging.
This is graphically uninteresting. I mean, at least compared to some of it. He's done some nice videos showing Pharaoh patterns and all this stuff, but this is just horrible. I mean, it's like, so what? We've seen this 5 million times.
Yeah, right there. You see that? It suddenly becomes a diatom ball. Excuse me, everything's in the way.
A diatom ball.
So yeah, that would be your vortex, which doesn't exist.
This would be what vortex? Again, this is just light. Light. So the light, where it's dark, means there isn't any light reflecting. And there could be two reasons why there's no light. First, there's nothing to reflect off of. Or there's too much stuff to reflect off of. Notice the bright ring.
Because it's constructed out of all that. You see that? That is all incoming wave, not incoming waves, but the shape.
Again, that's the way the magnet was made. So this magnet is probably got more than one pole in it. So again, he's not even recognizing that he could have a magnet that's been magnetized with a perimeter that's north and an inside that's south. That kind of thing can go on. So it's not an even magnetic field.
Shape of it is a halo wave, like a W, spinning out left and right all around the magnet. When you
Alright, so spinning left and right. So, like, again, he's seen the pictures. He knows of these other Pharaoh cell people. He's seen their videos. The guy did it with the microscope. I've done it with the microscope. The game is over.
rotate the field so that it comes together and forms a vortex. There isn't a vortex. It's formed by the magnetic field, as you can see here.
So there's no vortex formed by the magnetic field. And what would be the difference between a vortex and a vortex formed by the magnetic field? I don't think Ken Wheeler's suggesting the vortex is formed by something other than the magnetic field. So what the fuck are you proving? You're not proving no vortex exists, yet you're talking about the vortex? Are you fucking retarded?
By the fact that
That's a redundant question. Don't bother answering.
the show where it's all made from single strands which create a vortex. Okay?
Single strands that create a vortex. Okay, you won't find the Pharaoh material doing anything vortexial. Fact.
You can see that. Alright, thanks very much. More proof that the whole world doesn't know anything about magnets.
No, proof that you're a liar and a fraud and a phony and a fake for Jesus. And that God should smite the fuck out of you for taking the Lord's physics in vain.
And the theory that they promote of vortices and toruses is absolutely incorrect.
Right, you just pointed out how there are vortexes and so what the fuck? Sorry, irrational, silly, stupid. Let's just understand every single one of those lines is being created by an individual LED. So each LED projects a line, a reflection of the proper angles. So only certain precise arrangement of the Pharaoh material will reflect for each LED. So the lines going this one won't, certain angles won't work. Only a precise angle will reflect the light and the angles change as you move. As you move this way, the angle of the light changes quite obviously. So you have to hit it here. Say if I wanted to get the light to bounce at a 45-degree angle, and I want all the light to hit here. Well, this beam will do it, and then this one, if I move it closer, it'll do it, and this one, if I move it closer, it'll do it. So, to get it to all land in the same place, your pupil, it all has to have angles that add up to the same angle in, angle out thing. So the source essentially has to be moved as the illusion. So you're seeing reflections off different lines because only one location gives you the right angle. If I try to bounce it here and get to land here, it won't do it. It's going to go over here. So it won't get to my eye. So you can just sort of understand that I've got to change the angle to get it to go here. And then I've got to change the angle to get it to go over here. And by changing the angle, I have to change where I'm hitting, not only what I'm hitting. And that's all this is. There's nothing more to it. This card trick is easy to dissect. Well, it wasn't that easy. But I've done it for you, you fucking cunts. So I've explained it, you idiots. So quit pretending this is something else, you liars.
Thanks very much for watching God's Visions destroy.
Right, God's visions of bullshit. So just complete bullshit. Something God didn't want you to know, wasn't in the Bible, told you to stay away from knowledge anyway, and yet you're doing it right here in front of his face. You're belligerently being anti what you're supposed to be, which is a devoted servant of the crap he already told you, and you're not supposed to be snooping about. Nowhere in the Bible does it say man should go out and snoop and figure out how to live right. No, he told you what to do, shithead. Sit in your corner, pray, revere your God, drop dead, go to a fake heaven. Enjoy yourself, shithead, in your silly, stupid, fucking goddamn fable.
150-year-old nonsense. Thanks
Yes, you're in your 2,000-year-old nonsense.
very much. My name is Lee. I followed Christ,
You're a retard.
and I'm showing you all the things that he showed me.
No, you're lying. You're just an overt liar because you know better. You know one LED creates one line. And you know there's a reason why it creates that one line. And that's because the little shit is lined up a certain way and there's light reflecting off the little shit. You know how this thing fucking works, you fucking liar. So quit lying for Jesus.
Alright, that.
And quit putting commercials on God's products. You fucking you fucking cheater. Thou shalt exploit my word for profit. Where was that in the fucking Bible? Ugh, just disgusting. Bad scientists, bad religious kooks. It's just bad, 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 bad. Just too stupid all over the fucking place. This fucking planet of fucking too stupid. Alright, that's all I can do. I mean, there's nothing else I can do. You won't argue a rational argument. You won't show me how you're not stupid. You won't show me how you're not dupes. You won't prove to me you've got a right answer somewhere, that something you're saying isn't made out of complete shit, made up fucking shit. I mean, I've clearly decisively won the proof. You're idiots. I can go to the aliens and point out they're just too fucking stupid to be running a planet. I can prove it. They're not very good drivers. They're not very good physicists. They're not very good religious kooks. They're not good at anything. They suck at everything. Fucking bastard. Fucking pieces of shit. I haven't told you, I really hate this planet. Anyway, until the next time, and such.